Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Soft Focus Theater, otherwise known as Puppet Masters at Castle Freaks, the internet's leading all things Charles Band podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jared Hornbeck, coming to you from Piggery Cafe here in Brooklyn, New York. And if my tattoos are any indication, I have seen many savages in America. But no, I am not the only one who is running up this spiral staircase in this castle alone. No, who else is here with me?
Gurgle, gurgle, everyone. It's me, Steve Guntley, and I'm no Puritan, but I will not be giving the ladies of the castle love-making lessons, so stop asking. This is the podcast about bodice-ripping VR brothels and wonderfully irrigated land. I have to say, really well-irrigated land. That's because this is the podcast about Lurid Tales, the Castle Queen, which closes the books on Torchlight. I think we still have a few more Torchlight movies to cover, but this was the very last official Torchlight Films release. What a way to go out. We're very excited to be talking about this, and also very excited to be joined by our special guest today, someone who has a vested interest in the subject matter at hand. Who is joining us here today?
Hi, I'm Amanda Jane Stern. I'm also coming to you live from Piggery Cafe in Brooklyn, New York.
Big cafe. You guys aren't even like at the same table. That's crazy.
I know, it's quite a wild place. It really, lots of different rooms that just take on different looks depending on what's in your mind, much like this movie. Just studying the history of economics and why it relates to brothels in 17th century England for some reason.
And don't forget the interregnum. They said that word like 700 times in this movie.
Oh my goodness. I co-host the podcasts Don't Be Crazy and Pleasers and Punishers. I'm also a filmmaker. I have an erotic thriller out called Perfectly Good Moment that might have some thematic ties to the movie we're discussing today, not in terms of being history, but in terms of pulling from romance novels, more about how creepy some of the dialogue can be if skewed in the right light.
Sure.
And maybe a little bit of a sci-fi twist. I don't know. I'm not spoiling anything.
I mean, you wouldn't say that if there was one. So just put that on
exactly,
everybody. Yeah.
And it's called Perfectly Good Moment. It's on Tubi. Yep, that's me.
Awesome. Amazing. Oh, that's so exciting. I'm glad that that's worked out and that we have a lot of like crossover with the subject matter too, because there was not a whole lot of research to be done on this movie, which is often the case as we've encountered. We've covered a lot of these Torchlight films as well as the kind of successive studio, which is called Surrender Cinema. And I'm not sure, Amanda, how familiar you are with this particular niche of the Torchlight and Moonlight or Torchlight and Surrender films, but they are basically the sub-label of Full Moon with the most Vaseline on the lenses.
Yeah, I somewhat familiar just because I'm a bit of an erotic thriller fan, and I was a child in the 90s. Granted, I was very young in the 90s, but a lot of these movies did kind of get their Showtime sort of releases in the early 2000s. And I was coming around and finding them. Not so many of the Torchlight, but I did see a few. And then this was honestly, when you guys sent me the list of movies you still had left to cover, I know my initial inclination was to say, what are you dreading most? I'll do that. But then I saw this title, looked it up, and it said erotic drama thriller where man uses VR to have sex, and I thought, that's it, gotta do that.
That's the one.
That was it.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what I'm really dreading at this point. The big dread I think for me was Ooga Booga, and we pushed past that. I think maybe just the rest of the evil bongs are probably we still have many of them to go.
I think that's what it is. It's like looking at the spreadsheet and realizing how many evil bongs remain and like how we've been putting them off, and we're gonna have to get to them. And there's still other movies in some of the franchises that we don't really love particularly that are still out there, and we definitely by design are putting those ones off. And so my main dread is that we're going to get down to kind of like the twilight days of this podcast and be like, all right, well, we've only got 10 movies left to cover, and like 5 of them are going to be evil bongs.
And the rest are just going to be softcore porn. So it's just going to become a very different kind of vibe. That's what this is going to turn into real quick.
You did specifically tell me not to pick an evil bong movie, and that wouldn't have been my inclination, but I will always talk softcore porn.
See, exactly. And you have so much to choose from. And I think you chose one with one of the more striking titles, interestingly,
Yes.
because let's learn a little bit about this movie, what little there is to learn. Lurid Tales, The Castle Queen was released August 26, 1997. It's directed by our old buddy David Ducotto. It's written by Randall Fantana, which I don't recall if that's a pseudonym, but that really sounds like a pseudonym. It's a great name.
Made up.
That can't be a real name.
It stars Shannon Dow Smith, Kim Dawson, Betsy Lynn George, Christy Harris, Christina Stoika, Mihalia Mihut, and Christian Motiu. Now, as you may have inferred from the title, Lurid Tales was intended to be part of a sexy anthology series akin to Showtime's Red Shoe Diaries. For those who are unfamiliar, these were featured David Duchovny reading letters at the beginning of every episode depicting some erotic encounter. And these would be portrayed on screen.
I like to call this, Steve, the we have Sylvia Crystal at home.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. It's very much in conversation with the sort of thing that Torchlight does. Now, Ducotto shot this back to back with another movie that we covered recently and enjoyed called Petticoat Planet. He even used some of the same actors, including Betsy Lynn George, who was kind of the lead female here. Yeah, so that's I don't know if you're familiar with Petticoat Planet, but it is a
amazing title.
It's great. It's a distant planet that is also an old Western town, and only women live there, and their world gets thrown into disarray when a male astronaut crashes on their planet, and they all basically go feral trying to fight for him.
So Wonder Woman softcore porn.
It's exactly that. It is exactly that. I don't know if we made that connection on that episode, but it is straight up Wonder Woman, and that's a good point. Yeah,
I don't think we did, but as time has gone on, and I think back to Petticoat Planet, how silly it is. It really endeared itself to me. Like the more I sit with that one, I'm like, that was actually a lot of fun. Like that, and I feel maybe not as strongly as this with this one in that same way, but there is, I think, a lot to enjoy in how deliriously goofy some of this stuff is.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it makes sense completely that they were shot back to back and used some of the same cast members and stuff like this. Because this one, if I'm not mistaken, this, like you said, Steve, closes the door on Torchlight, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of parallels, at least according to Dave J, between this and Alien Abductions, Intimate Secrets.
Which we have not gotten to.
We have not covered. I think it was a real blunder on our part. I think we should have doubled up. Like if we
I was wondering if you were going to ask me to double. Because I know that you've said that sometimes you double up a thing if there's just not that much to talk about. And when
that's very true. But I think we'll find something here.
I think there's a lot. I have a full essay here. So.
I just need to point out that Alien Abduction Intimate Secrets is one of those titles that works in any iteration. You can rearrange those words in any order and it works, and it conveys its theme.
Intimate Abduction Alien Secret. Oh boy, yeah.
It works every time. There's no bad combination of that. You could almost do that with Lurid Tales, The Castle Queen, but not quite. Anyway, back to my point, which is that, this would be the final proper Torchlight release. And as we discussed in the Femalian episode fairly recently, Charles Band had kind of shifted the soft sex films that he was working on over to the Surrender Cinema sub-label. And David Ducotto, who had directed most of the Torchlight films, and he was kind of the visionary in charge of that, he was stepping further and further away in favor of doing his own kind of brand of erotica, which is
the 1313 series.
The 1313s that he would do, and Voodoo Academy. A talking cat.
Question mark, exclamation point, question mark. Now he does like a bunch of Lifetime style thrillers.
He does, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He does a lot of
that's the pipeline
movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Gregory Dark, look at him. He wasn't in the Charles Band universe. He was his own thing, but he's got some great DTV erotic thrillers in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of, and we're at this sort of inflection point where we've now seen enough of these that I can tell the difference between like a Torchlight film and a Surrender film. You know, like I've we discussed it a bit in the Femalian episode, but Surrender Cinema is kind of there's a kind of a large difference when you're turning over the label from a gay man to a very aggressively straight man. And you kind of feel the shift in energy a little bit. The sex gets a little bit more realistic, a little less gauzy, a little less performative. And that's fine. It's just there's a weird kind of innocence to the Torchlight movies. It's not really the right word to it, but it kind of is. It's kind of
They don't feel like the male gaze is what those.
They don't. Yeah,
I will say they are all in slow-mo, and that is insane. But
real chuggy slow-mo. It's like frame. Yeah.
I would have thought that this was something that, Tubi had put on like 1.5 speed, but I didn't watch this on Tubi, and the dialogue scenes were normal. I watched this on a porn site because that's where I found this.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I guess I could have looked most porn sites in Texas are banned, so I can't look there. So, but we did have the Full Moon app.
I'm in New York, and we are still, have some rights.
You're still a proper country. Yeah.
We've got a few. I watched it on the Full Moon app also. And I will say, the Surrender Cinema, we call what happens there the Siciliano effect. Once Pat Siciliano comes into the mix, it is no longer, Amanda, you made a good point. It's that these don't feel they don't feel male gazing.
They're not,
in like a kind of hetero way, because it's Dave Dakota. He is indifferent at best towards the women in these movies, and it's like, you're gonna get a lot of tighty whities, abdomens, chest rubbing, all the hallmarks of a classic Dakota or a classic Ellen Cabot, if you will.
Is this an Ellen Cabot?
This is an Ellen Cabot.
Yeah. So that's the pseudonym that he uses when he's not super proud of his work.
It feels like someone who's read a lot of romance novels that are geared towards women.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah, it has a lot of the hallmarks. And so like you watch something like this and it's like, this has very little relationship to how human beings have sex. And this has very little connection to what most people find erotic.
Speak for yourself, Steve.
It's got incest.
Yes, absolutely. And it's got weird sci-fi twists that don't really need to be there. But like,
I texted my podcast co-hosts while I was watching this movie. I was texting them my reactions, and I got to that and I go, oops, it's incest.
Side tangent, but I just watched this movie on HBO called Fackham Hall, which is a Naked Gun style parody of Downton Abbey. And the little logo, the little sign they put under their family manor is incestus ad infinitum. And made me laugh. And the whole point is trying to get them to marry each other's cousins. It's really funny.
Do you know why it didn't have other lurid tale movies?
I think just strictly that this movie didn't do well. This came out at the very end of the Torchlight, so they'd already sort of shifted. Like Surrender Cinema was happening already. That kind of started with like Female and Huntress and movies like that. And so those were already going, and they were already being sold to like Cinemax and to Blockbuster, and they were already a little bit more popular. And Dave Dakota's attention had shifted to his own thing. Like he was doing more horror movie work over at Full Moon. So he did like 11 films in a row, I think, starting around this time. This might be the firing pistol for that. And he wanted to do more gay erotica. He wanted to kind of like push the boundaries on that, because that was a market that didn't exist at this time. Like the gay softcore market was basically invented by Dave Dakota with Voodoo Academy. So
fair. Okay.
And I think, I'm going to speculate a little bit here, but I'm going to say that I think this also happened because if you look at this movie is really tame compared to the Surrender Cinema counterparts that start, like the Familian episode, which I think, we record these pretty far in advance, and like we're talking about it in the past, but that episode hasn't dropped yet. It actually comes out, I think, on Friday. And it's that one I think is so much more lurid, for lack of a better word.
It really is,
than this one is. And I think, even when I think about the other Torchlight stuff, like even Huntress, which resembles this one a bit more in terms of like having a lot of plotting in addition to the sex scenes, but like
how much plot?
Not like there's when you go back to like the early Torchlight, like Test Tube Teens from the year 2000, Beach Babes from Beyond, and Cave Girl Island and stuff, like those feel so much more like
What
the mission
titles?
statement. Yeah, the mission statement of those is like, we want to show you, naked women, basically, although those are mostly all Dakotas as well. But
I could have
here,
done with more sex in this movie if it were a little
well,
more
that's what I'm saying. Like,
choreographed and not slow-mo.
yeah, it
Truly,
doesn't
yeah,
feel like what this
yeah.
movie is concerned with. This movie feels like it's really concerned with, like, people are invested in this land dispute.
Which
Right,
is
yeah,
it's political intrigue, and that's fine. That could be very sexy. You could tie that to sex, and they try to, and I do think that's very interesting. But yeah, the sex scenes are like, it's almost like the cover of a romance novel come to life if
right.
you're watching it without sound from far away.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That kind of goes back to my innocence comment, just because like there's always been an element to these movies where of bumping your Barbie dolls together, just because you don't really know what they're doing, or my Ninja Turtles in my case, whatever, they're brothers. But yeah, no, there's kind of just this disconnect with the way that people actually have sex, and it's so funny to me. I mean, it's just so much like, there was a lot of rib biting in this one. I noticed, like,
Yes.
that was a move of
Yes.
just like kissing a girl's back and then kind of like nibbling on her ribs, and I'm like, is that fun for anyone? That's just such a weird, I don't know.
It
That's
was
such a
also
weird idea.
just a lot of people like rocking back and forth
Mhm.
in a position, but there's no stimulation of any sort going on. So they're just rocking
Right.
back and forth. Like it opens with a sex scene, and it's Lady Dunsmore. We're gonna get to how they name some of these characters, because that's not how it worked.
Yeah.
I don't know why the sister is also Lady Dunsmore when she was not related to Lord Dunsmore or married to him. Shouldn't she have the name that her older sister, who did marry Lord Dunsmore, have? I guess it's all
Excellent point.
incest.
Yeah.
Because they make it very clear that the two younger women are Lady Dunsmore's younger sisters, not sisters-in-law. What's their last name?
Yeah. And
Not
it's like
Dunsmore, whatever they are. He's Dunsmore.
Yes, he is. He
They
is
are whatever they are.
But it's worth mentioning that, like, this is a movie that is weirdly heavy on
They're
plot.
Dorset.
Dorset, thank you.
Dorset, thank you. Yeah, no, there's a movie that's weirdly heavy on plot, but it actually, like, literally doesn't matter, because the twist that they kind of bury in the title of this movie is that this is all a VR simulation.
Yep.
This is a very sophisticated VR program. And I think that's kind of was going to be like the hook of the series, right? Different tourists come through, they try out this VR simulation, it reads what their desires are, and it like sends them to that scenario. So maybe 1 week you're in space, and 1 week you're in a murder mystery, and 1 week you're in this Valmont kind of situation.
Here's my question about that plot setup, which I have no issues with, but the movie starts with Lady Dorset and a man her husband running in slow motion through the house up this spiral staircase, and then it's like one of many sex scenes starts, and then like they have this long conversation, and it's like, I must fight the Puritan radicals in service of the king, and then it's like, so he's leaving, and he's like, I will return to you, and then it cuts to a follow-up sex scene, and it is a straight up Meatloaf video. There are more candles than I've ever seen in my life in one room. And then it cuts to like present day, to Pig's Creek Cafe. So if the whole thing is this, like, did they really felt like they needed to give you the contextual background before we start the movie proper? It's like a cold open to this movie, and I don't know why it's there. If the whole conceit is that he needs to take he's got writer's block, he needs to take a study break, Thomas Dunsmore, and so he goes and does this VR thing, and then that comes back later on, which they forget about it for a very long time. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of did too.
Yeah,
I think that is a scene from the romance novel that he's reading in the cafe instead of doing his work. That for whatever reason, he's taking a history of economics class, presumably in the United States, and the teacher is teaching them about the reign of Charles I to his overthrow to Cromwell taking over.
Yes.
The only way I can tie this to the history of economics is that prostitution and sex work is the oldest job in the book, but then when you go back to like Pompeii, if that is like, it does not tie to the history of economics.
You are being so generous to Randall Fantana here, because assuming he's putting this.
I can't get over that name. I can't get over. That's not a name. That's a pseudonym. That's a Bob Loblaw if I've ever heard one. That's
totally
Parmesan.
Yeah, it sounds like a 70s like TV detective. Yeah.
I think he's reading like a bodice ripper set during that time about this fake noble household, and then decides to have his own, I guess, risky business fanfic.
What they don't tell us is that he's majoring in Jude Devereaux and minoring in Johanna Lindsay.
Oh my God.
He's a real Barbara Cartland.
See, these are great because I'm sort of fascinated by romance novel covers.
Yeah,
they are cottage industry. Although maybe that's not even fair to say, because I feel like they sell tons of copies and I feel like they're pretty popular, like legitimately popular.
Highest selling genre of novels. The romance novel genre brings in the most money on a yearly basis.
Well, and you get Trojan horse sometimes with those things too, because my wife likes fantasy books.
I do too.
But not like romance fantasy books. And one day in the lobby of my building, there was like a shopping bag filled with these giant books. And she's got like those Wheel of Time and all those books. And I'm like looking through them, and I texted her. I'm like, oh, there's all these like fantasy novels in the lobby. Do you want me to grab them for you? And she's like, I don't know. There could be like romance fantasy. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I'm looking at the cover, and it was the entire Throne of Glass series. And she's like, yes, that is exactly what those are.
See, I didn't even know. Yeah,
I am a romantasy girl. I'm picky, and I tend to skew more towards reading queer novels. The dynamics tend to work better for me. Or I mean, I enjoy a good rom-com, a more modern rom-com. Or I'm really a gothic girl. So anything that is kind of taking the elements of the gothic romance and horror and doing new things with that is sort of my favorite thing. So Locked Rooms, the old mansion, that's A Spiral Staircase, which is a great movie.
Man, and this is also a really good movie for staircases and general castle rework, because I don't think this was shot in Charles Band's castle, which he owns a castle in Italy, if you weren't aware. Or owned at the time, but and so a lot of his movies were shot there. I think this is pretty definitely Romania.
Yeah, this felt like Romania. All of the secondary male characters have Romanian accents.
They do, that are sometimes being dubbed over with some poorly lip-synced British accents, and sometimes not.
This is not Castello di Giovo or whatever that one is called in Italy. This is the Castel Studios, I believe.
Yes,
which is the Romanian one. But I mean, just castle upon castle at its disposal at this time to use, like whether it's Italy, Romania. I mean, that's one thing that sets a lot of the full moon stuff apart, and we've talked about this many times. But a lot of the location shooting that they can use, and they have some nice open pastoral areas to shoot here in this, and they've got a castle to give it a little. I mean, obviously the cafe is the repurposed castle set, but that's fine. So I always appreciate that you get a little extra once we get past the surrender cinema time and we get into the 2000s and Full Moon really starting to go micro budget. You miss out a little bit on the air of legitimacy and prestige that they were able to give to even the smallest of productions by being able to shoot on location, because a lot of those look really nice. And like, I mean, from what I can see through the smeared Vaseline on the lens, everything looked pretty good. Just soft.
I mean, God, there's so much smeared, which is, a trick used in horror movies as well. The Innocents did I mean, I don't think it was technically Vaseline, but there was like
frosting around the glass. Yeah. Oh, I need
one of my favorites.
It's been a while. It's an amazing movie.
I think so many of these Torchlight movies kind of don't really the did I like it, did I not like it, like, or is it a good movie, bad movie, that dynamic doesn't really apply most of the time, because like these are movies that are being catered for a different audience and for a different purpose, and it's just like I always kind of come down on just being like lightly endeared and amused by them, like I don't find anything that happens in these movies terribly sexy or terribly like thrilling in that regard. But there is kind of a goofball charm to these and like a bit of nostalgia, for a genre that is like well and truly dead, right? Like the softcore porn film. I bring this up at like every time we talk about it, but it is one of those genres that's just truly been killed by advances in technology. This is a genre of films that existed almost entirely to be sold at Blockbuster, right? This is the hardest core porn that they were willing to carry on the Blockbuster shelf.
Oh, not if you had the Blockbuster that had the room behind the curtain.
Well, Blockbuster never had the room behind the curtain, but like other video stores. Well, wait, did you have one with a room? Oh man,
yeah, we had a room at our Blockbuster in New York City.
Kidding. Oh, I did not have this at all.
Okay, so now we'll get geographic here for a second. So which Blockbuster are you referring to?
Okay, so I grew up in Manhattan on the Upper East Side. So it was the Blockbuster on First Avenue. Was it First Avenue or York Avenue and like 85th Street?
Okay. All right. So I'm not okay. So I don't know that I ever knew that there was a Blockbuster there. That was a little far away from me. I grew up in Woodhaven, Queens, and my like major, so I had a mom and pop video store that was on my block. And then the major kind of like chain video store that we had was on I believe it was either on Queens Boulevard or Austin Street in Forest Hills, and it was Captain Video.
Okay.
And so Captain Video was kind of my Blockbuster equivalent. But I think Captain Video, like Hollywood Video, was generally known for having a bit more in the horror and cult and exploitation stuff than Blockbuster usually did as a company. I'm kind of fascinated actually now to know that there was a Blockbuster that would carry that kind of stuff, because I always kind of had that stigma as well, that it was just something at company wide that they didn't really do.
I assumed, much like the bad guys in this movie, that they were Puritans.
No, I do distinctly remember that in the main section there were like non-rated and the erotic thrillers and the more softcore movies, and you could tell because of the covers. And then there was another room that there was like, it was darker, there were tassels, and you had to be over 18 to go into it. And,
mind is blown.
Yeah, we had that at my video store when I was in high school with like the back room, but it wasn't a Blockbuster. It was I'm actually forgetting what it was, but yeah, we had the back room through there. But like, so that was always that terrifying thing when you're a video store kid, just like hanging out and reading all the boxes. There is that little beaded area, and that's so scary and so fascinating, and you just really want to know what's back there.
You dare all your friends who's gonna go through it. We had Ricky's as well in the city, and they had the sex toy room behind the tassels. And of course, when we were children, like, oh my god, go in there, go look at the dildos literally hanging on the wall. Like glued up to the wall.
Yeah, you're like, well, I'm already here to buy some like Halloween makeup supplies. Let me go check out what's behind these tassels.
Yeah, no, and so like this kind of, a Blockbuster does no longer exist. Like the mom and pop video store is like rapidly dying as well. So you don't need these movies for that purpose. You don't need these movies that can be like marketed in a little bit more broad of a sense. And you don't have like Cinemax doesn't run these kind of things anymore. Cinemax is a streaming service. Everything's a streaming service. And we don't have like these after hours kind of mentality anymore.
I was watching this, and when maybe it was the first sex scene, but I was like kind of like looking at my watch, like this is going on a long time and not a lot like oh no, actually it was probably the first scene with Thomas Dunsmore and the two sisters, where I was long. Like, it is long. It's taken them a long time to get to it, and I started to
charitably called a threesome.
Well, why are they just like the two sisters are standing there, their hands are over their boobs, and they're just swaying like this?
Yeah.
Oh, it's called foreplay.
It's so weird.
It's like birds of paradise presenting to each other. It's just like
Well,
Yeah.
in the first sex scene, I thought that Lord Dunsmore, when they're kind of like rocking back and forth, but it's clear that he's not in her. I thought he was fingering her, and then I realized no, they're just sitting and facing each
No,
other.
they're just
What's
bump-
going
they're just-
on?
They're just bumping.
yeah, you genuine, and that's the funny thing. It's like this is like sex designed by aliens. Like it doesn't really, like they've got roughly the idea of what's happening, but they don't really know the mechanics.
And the great Fredericks of Hollywood costuming.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
man,
my God. Yeah. It's
Fredericks of Hollywood. Those are three. That's three words I haven't thought about in a while.
Of? You haven't thought of in a while?
Hollywood. You just said Hollywood Video like 5 minutes ago.
I did. Sorry, Frederick. You got the short shrift there. But I was watching that scene, and in my head for a second, I was like, this is going on for a long time. And then I had this kind of, I don't want to call it an epiphany because it's not that deep of a thought, but I was like, man, the internet really killed this. Like, this is languid, and this is taking its time for a reason, because it's like it wants to give the person who is watching it like their money's worth. Like it wants to give them time to
think
to
of
sit
other
in
ways
this setting.
to have choreographed that scene and shot it that would not have involved slow-mo or two sisters with their hands over their boobs swaying randomly. They're in fact, I don't know if you guys know this, but there are a lot of things you can do sexually before leading up to this movie, straight P&V.
I've heard rumors. I've heard rumors of new technology.
Those take time. Yeah, you can choreograph scenes with that instead of slow-mo swaying and rib eating.
Yeah, it's that whole thing, and I bring it up every time again, but it just there's something about these that feel like they are porn designed for people who are too young for porn. They're designed almost to be this like gateway, and so
which is why they're endearing to us, because that's the time when we would have been seeking these things out. Like I would be flipping through the channels, and you can bet your life on if I landed on some Emmanuel movie, I was leaving it on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or you're watching it like scrambled because your parents didn't pay for the channel, like you're getting like a Salvador Dali rendition of a boob, that like you maybe, you're using your imagination a lot. But this is a time when you're, 12, 13, and you're just kind of like dipping your toe into that whole world. This is kind of like a weird entry point in a way. It's giving you an idea of what like human bodies look like in certain situations, but it's not really giving you an idea of like the mechanics of sex, I
laughed out loud at a part when both of the two Dorset sisters are taking their like corsets off and they're standing with their arms crossed in front of them. And then it cuts to a wide shot and it's like they're topless, but they both have huge bloomers on.
Yep, and they're facing back to him, and they're just kind of like shaking their butts.
Yeah, and they did a move. They did a move where they just put their hands on the mantle of the fireplace, and they're just like it's just their back and their bloomers, and it's just like, and they're not even really moving that much. I think.
Well, you can't tell.
Is he looking for moles?
The bloomers are so baggy, you can't see.
Looking for moles.
Yeah, it's just like before we begin, I want to make sure there's nothing raised and irregular on my scapula. I mean,
it's just like there's so many ways to choreograph a sex scene, and this is not what I would do. Let's put it that way.
Well, Amanda, I think you have to think about the fact that you're talking about it from like the perspective of a woman, and how would they maybe want to enjoy themselves in this kind of scene. And I'm going to stop you right there, because if you read the IMDb plot synopsis, you'll see that this is a moot point.
Oh God, yeah, no, I know.
An erotic drama follows a modern young man on a virtual reality trip back to 17th century England, where men were men and women were readily available.
That is the log line on.
That is the log line of this movie.
Men were men, women were around.
I think I misread that log line as where men and women were readily available.
Nope. That is not what it says.
Definitely
men were tautologies and women were things. Yes.
Men were men and women were holes with pulses.
Yes. And yet there isn't even really much penetrative sex in this movie. There's a 10-minute slow-mo sequence of him licking her back.
Like there's not even
I know,
some
I
of these
was
other
timing
movies
it.
will some of these other movies will give you at least the barest illusion that there might be penetrative sex. One really doesn't in an odd way. Like there's very little of what could even be construed as that.
Yeah.
So
or really anything that is any sort of genital stimulation whatsoever. It's like back licking, just like swaying with your hands over your boobs.
Yeah. That's all we need.
Well,
and then just like a whole lot of like geopolitics for a fake virtual like world in the past. Like
I don't know who will ever, who would take on the job of trying to find this out. But I think for a softcore movie, this movie has the most words in it of any.
So much dialogue, so much political intrigue, but also they're so like, are they trying to be right about history? Because there's a moment where Miranda mentions Buckingham Palace, and this movie is set in the 1600s. Buckingham Palace wasn't built until 1703, and it was Buckingham House at that time because it was for the Duke of Buckingham. It didn't become like part of the King and Queen's thing until I think 1763. So,
well, now look, obviously we knew that, but I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by this.
Yeah, I think you have a grievance for Murphy Brown's Frank Fontana or whatever the name of the writer of this movie.
Brian Fantana, part of the San Diego news team. Yeah. I mean, look, that's what you get when you hire Fantana. But really, you should bring it up. Like, if you have any problems with these inaccuracies, you have to bring it up with whoever programmed this incredible AI that is reading this man's mind and populating this entire VR world, because it's a VR world and it's so weird. We really thought VR was going to be so much more powerful.
It's actually like, if he's feeling it, isn't it more like AR or XR?
Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah. Experiential reality. Is that
Well, it's combining, because it's not just what he sees in front of him, it's an entire world around him, and he can touch and feel it as well.
Yeah, it's like totally sensory. Yeah, it's complete immersion.
Very immersive.
I thought about this a lot, actually.
And it's so good and so effective that when he snaps out of it, he instantly says, "That was so fucking cool."
Mm-hmm. After he gets basically hanged.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
He says, "That was fucking amazing." That was the line.
I did. What I did not have on my bingo card for sitting down to do this podcast episode was I did not have the Lurid Tales, the Castle Queen, and an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge connection, which is basically the same framing reference of like all of this is like in the last moments before being hanged.
Yeah, and it feels like expansive and like he's been gone for days, but he's just been for seconds. Yeah.
Well, so I wonder if the plot of this book that he was reading, which I'm gonna guess no, because I feel like the lead in the romance novel that he was reading is Lady. What's
Dorset.
the last? Dorset, thank you. I don't know why I can't remember that name. Lady Dorset, and not her younger sister Miranda. But I wonder if that's the plot of the book. Is it about the younger sister starting a brothel, and that's where this goes? Or is that really just what's on this guy's mind? Like, he's thinking about, how do you start an economy? How do you make money? Oh, what runs an economy? Sex.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, because maybe he's reading just kind of like a staid, like, Jane Austen or something like that, or just some kind of period piece, and then he's projecting, or it seems like, if I'm understanding the mechanics of the Lurid Tales series that they wanted to do, it seems like this device is like scanning your brain and targeting specifically your like erotic urges, or like infusing that kind of energy into what you're doing, because it's a tourist thing, or is it really? Because she tears up his money at the end.
Yep.
This is just a service this woman is providing.
But then that makes me think about, if this is his erotic desire, sure, it starts sexual. He has sex with Lady Dorset and then her two younger sisters, and then starts a very monogamous relationship with Miranda as he enables her to create her brothel empire. And he's no longer having sex with anybody else. So it's his erotic desire he's a cuck. Oh my God. His erotic desire. He's the cuck.
His one big lust is just to be a part of an official couple. That's it.
Yes.
That's all he really wants.
And to enable his love to sell sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a very progressive mindset.
More like Thomas Dunn's No More, am I right?
You are not wrong, technically, I guess.
That's really funny. I didn't think about that at all, but it's like, yeah, once it gets into, yeah, he's definitely like, it's the Thomas Dunsmore and Miranda story, which is not really how it seems when it's set up. And I will say, like, Betsy Lynn George has a lot of screen time in this, like even more than she does in Petticoat Planet. And she's like kind of the, I guess you would say, co-lead of Petticoat Planet, like she is here. And I never knew this before, and I figured it out. If we did mention this and brought it up in one of the other episodes that features her and talked about it already, I apologize, but I don't think we did. But she very, I'm gonna say famously, but at least like something that was memorable to me is she's the girl who is stripping in the apartment in Billy Idol's Rock the Cradle of Love video.
Is that her?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have put that together. It's been years since I've seen that video, but yeah.
Don't think I've seen the video. So
yeah.
It's basically just like a very 80s coded apartment with a woman dancing around the apartment, and that's it's her. And I feel like other stuff
the opposite of the Billy Squier music video.
Just she puts on exactly. She takes off one ripped shirt to put on a pink tank top and roll around on her satin sheets.
I found her appealing. I thought she was charming. She's cute. She was kind of the girl next door archetype in Petticoat Planet, and I think she gets a little bit more to do here. And it seems to be having fun, you know, like accent work across the board is pretty spotty, but you know, what you want, like they're Romanian being filtered through a British accent, being filtered through an American accent. So
lady. Dorset at one point goes from British to Blanche Dubois.
Yeah.
She's speaking like this for like just a solid moment, talking about the land that Oliver Cromwell wants to take, and then she goes back into this accent, and then it's, oh my God.
Oh, hi mate. Oh, welcome to my house. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it's you know, look, they're doing what they can, and they're not there specifically for their accent.
Exactly, which is why I always find it so funny when those creative choices are made. Like, you're making the softcore movie that has really one purpose, and you're concentrating so much on the specifics of the plot and the geography and where this is taking place. Like, just don't have anyone attempt to do an accent. No one would care.
There's so
literally no
plot.
one would care.
There is so much plot in this movie. I mean, I did not expect it to be all about the perils of being from a noble family that supported King Charles I, who got overthrown by Oliver Cromwell. And now Cromwell wants to take your lands. But then is Cromwell kind of the hero at the end of this movie? Because that's really weird. And I was like vibing. I was thinking, wow, this is a pro-sex work, pro-like non-traditional relationships, anti-religion. Oh, wait. Pro-Cromwell?
Weird hill to die on. Yeah. Weird choice to make.
Is this guy gonna be Shakespeare? That's cool. It's not. It was Cromwell.
I thought for a second that that's kind of where this might be going also. Like, I definitely, they kind of set it up like that. There's a few little like references to Shakespeare where it's like, it's like his, you know, his works are, so a lot of his works are banned here, and it's like, well, that's unfortunate. And then
he died in 1616, so I don't know exactly what year this is, because I don't think the movie knows what year it is. But okay, what year did Cromwell take power? Actually, let's see that, because Shakespeare died in 1616, so there would be overlap.
Okay,
obviously.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you specifics, but I would say that this is probably the early 1600s.
Oh, okay, no, it looks. Charles I was executed in 1649, so this would have been post-Shakespeare.
Okay. All right, so it's in that pocket.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I just assume it's a glitch in the AI system. Like they're confusing our main character's deep erotic fixation to James Cromwell, and it's just kind of like folding it all together. You know, he just really wants someone to say, "That'll do, pig."
James Cromwell. Oh, that's quite an interesting spin
I
on a
just ruined that
praise.
movie for everyone. Yeah, enjoy that. Yeah, yeah.
It's okay. I watched so many things as a kid and had really weird reactions to certain characters. Not that one, but the child catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Hey, go off. Love it. Yeah, yeah.
We've all
Never
had
seen that movie.
very yeah, I'm like, now that you say it, I'm like, I feel like I can picture stuff about it, but a lot of the like live action Disney stuff from the 60s that would have come out around the time of Herbie Fully Loaded and stuff like that. That's
Oh.
kind of a blind spot for me. Like
Mhm.
those live action, even like the Jerry Lewis Nutty Professor and movies like that. I know more of them, and I feel like maybe I caught some of them on like a Magical World of Disney on a Sunday night, one night, like a Bed Knobs and Broomsticks
Chitty
or
Chitty Bang Bang's
something
not
like that.
Disney. I think it's MGM actually.
Okay, you might be right.
Yes,
Well,
you're
who
right.
is what is okay? So, yeah, Chitty Chitty Bang.
You're
So I'm
thinking of, like,
picturing,
yeah, like the
I'm
Apple
picturing-
Dumpling Gang and stuff.
yes, that's exactly not that movie because I know that movie, but that's not the one I'm picturing. But I'm definitely lumping it in with those, and I'm kind of picturing the cover art, and I'm trying to think if there's another movie that was released around the same time that would have maybe been MGM or someone else also. But I lump all those in together, and now this was just a very long-winded. So it's like as if I'm Mr. Fantana writing Lurid Tales with Castle Queen here, just to say that I don't think I've seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang either.
I just had to Google the child catcher just to make sure that it was who I thought it was, and it is. And go off. Yeah, I support you.
Thank you.
Well, do we have any final thoughts? Since we're talking about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, I have to assume we don't have too many more thoughts about the Lurid Tales.
I just judging by Amanda's face, I'm going to say that's incorrect, Steve. We're going to
Hell
let
yeah.
her go off here and read the rest of her essay. She has the floor.
Well, okay, so obviously I had no idea what the hell I was going to watch going into this.
Mhm.
I mean, I had to track this down on a porn site. It was in 480p. There was so much Vaseline on the lens, and it was 480p, so I was sitting there going,
Yeah, you got to get real close to the screen on this one.
real close. But aside from me also furiously Googling, what year is the set? What's going on? Oliver Cromwell, Buckingham Palace. I was not expecting it to turn into this sort of like West Wing style political intrigue thing about like the ethics of prostitution. And then Miranda has that whole monologue where Thomas is like, I wish you didn't have to do this. I'm sorry. And she's like, it's okay. Sex is just sex. Selling, my body for money is fine. The issue that I have with this is the fact that men have put me in this position where this is what I have to do. I'm okay doing it. I have no ethical qualms, but I should have been able to choose this because this is what I wanted and not because it was something that was available and the only thing that was available. And so I think there's like, and I need to watch this again, and I probably will one day because there's such a weird like feminist argument in this movie.
Kinda.
And then you get these really, really slow-mo, barely sex scenes and slow-mo fencing and slow-mo running. But I also felt in some ways that Miranda and the way that she carried herself, the way the character is dressed, is almost queer-coded.
Yeah, the thing I will reiterate that I've encountered with most of these Torchlight movies, and even a handful of the Surrender cinemas, which are a little bit more male gazy, I think they're all generally pretty sex positive and kind of, if nothing else, they have their heart in the right place. Like we haven't really encountered any with like super outright like misogyny or anything like that. Maybe the Beach Babes movies came closest.
I would say Cave Girl Island.
Cave Girl Island.
We all walked away from Cave Girl Island feeling a little bit icky.
Yeah, listened to that episode.
Feeling pretty icky about that one.
But that's interesting because when you look at a lot of the erotic thrillers that were coming up, they are actually pretty sexist. A lot of the big ones. And I'm not saying I don't enjoy them. I think they're fucking hilarious, but I also think they're hilarious because of the sexism that it turns these movies into sort of grounded psychosexual dramas to what the fuck batshit crazy. And it's why I have an affinity for the ones, the significantly more lurid ones that Gregory Dark made, where there's a much more nuanced exploration of sex and sexuality, and women are written a lot more. Like, I love Body Heat. I think that one's brilliant because it is a subversion on the noir genre, and obviously an erotic thriller is a noir. It's a noir
Yeah.
with tits, you know, and
Yeah.
without the parameters of the Hays Code anymore. And so you get, you know, 87 is when it starts with Fatal Attraction, where Alex is basically a universal horror monster. That's not a human woman.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and she jumps out of a bathtub
Yeah.
like Swamp Thing and gets shot at the end of that
It's
movie.
still one of those things. That's a movie I think is like a 4.5 star out of 5. And it's
so
just
much
that
fun.
last little stretch where they turn her into this kind of like unambiguous monster that I think really hurts the legacy of that otherwise pretty fucking great movie.
Well,
Yeah.
so originally what the plot had was that she would frame Michael Douglas's character for murder, and then she gets away with it, kind of like Body Heat. Also much smarter, much more hewing to a noir, but audience reactions were negative because they strongly didn't like her. And I do think that's maybe because she stops being a human midway through the movie and becomes this caricature, whereas Kathleen Turner in Body Heat is always a controlled character.
And I think that's the secret to a good noir, as well as like a good kind of soft erotic movie like we're talking about today. The women needs to be smarter. The women need to be smarter than the men in the room. The women need to be,
it's about the men being patsies.
It's about the men being patsies, and it's about the women having a little bit more agency and a little bit more interiority.
And I never had a chance to do this on the podcast, so I'm going to do it now, but I am not going to be ignored, Steve.
Can't believe it took that long for that to come up. Oh my God.
You're welcome.
One of my favorite line readings of all time.
You're welcome.
It's one of the best. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you have Gregory Dark, who does like Animal Instincts, and he does Body of Influence. Do not confuse that with Body of Evidence, which I think is one of the most interesting neo-noir erotic thrillers, that it's really playing with all of the facets of the genre. And a movie like Lurid Tales, The Castle Queen, only exists because of that whole genre and all of those things that came before it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like
welcome to my TED Talk.
No, listen, I love talking about this
That's
stuff
why you're
too.
here.
And I do think when, you know, I think of a friend of the show, Sam Irvin, and an erotic thriller that he made. It's actually kind of like an erotic thriller dark comedy though that he made in the 80s, or no, I'm sorry, in the early 90s, called Acting on Impulse.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I fucking love that one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I think
amazing.
it's one of the smartest subversions of the erotic thriller. I've been telling people to watch that. Right, he's a Brian De Palma guy, and it's oh my God, it's so smart. And the sex scene in that movie is one of the most interesting flips on who has power in the sex scene. And it's Linda Fiorentino before she actually became an erotic thriller icon. It's before Last Seduction. It is before Jade. Oh my God. Last Seduction is amazing though.
There's a real argument to be made that Linda Fiorentino is the hottest human being that ever existed. Yeah. Like
agree.
just empirically.
Acting on Impulse is one of the most interesting parody, satire, subversions of the erotic thrillers. And it came pretty early in the, like, it's what, 93, I think?
93.
Right. Yeah. It's really early in the genre.
Yeah.
We'll have to message Sam Irvin and tell him that you said that. Yeah. He'll be delighted. Yeah.
Pushing that movie on so many people. Because of Perfectly Good Moment, there's a critic whose whole thing is erotic thrillers, and he covered my movie. And we've become friendly, and I told him to watch Acting on Impulse.
I'm adding this to the list. I haven't seen this one yet. So yeah.
It's good. It's clearly, you will watch it and you will be like, it makes sense that Sam Irvin worked with De Palma, because
Nancy Allen.
Oh my God.
And Nancy Allen is in it. Yeah. Adam Ant,
Isaac Hayes, Miles O'Keefe, Zelda Rubinstein.
You have the mom from
Brink's in there.
Halloween Town.
Brink is in there for a scene.
Yeah.
Even
the original
Sandra Peterson's in there for a scene.
Yeah, it's really, really smart. It's just the way that it's playing with the tropes of the genre is fascinating. And again, the sex scene is really unique and really well done. And I've talked about that sex scene to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's really fun, and it's some grade A Fiorentino.
Oh, amazing.
It's before she was an erotic thriller icon.
It was before Fiorentino.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I need to sleep.
Amanda, do you want to co-host another podcast?
There's an opening suddenly. Yeah.
Sure, I already co-host three others.
Oh, you're a serial podcaster too.
My day job is booking a podcast. So.
Oh my god. Okay, see, there you go.
Yeah, every time Steve does his Cinema Arcade plug on here, in my head while he's talking, I'm always like, man, I don't know that I could handle another podcast. But then and I'll toss this out to you, Amanda. We can revisit this idea sometime in the future. I could tell by the way this episode has gone. I would love to do a full series recap of Silk Stockings.
Oh yeah.
Because I started watching it again on Tubi and I was like, this show is kind of perfect in the like.
I don't think I've ever seen an episode, but I always thought it was this kind of like amazing, like a mysterious object, because it also aired on cable and I didn't have cable growing up. So like by the time my family finally got satellite TV, Silk Stockings was no longer in the rotation. But so I only know it as this like ephemeral, sexy thing that's out there in the world, and I've never, I don't know anything.
Young, attractive detectives who work sex-related murder crimes in Palm Beach.
Great.
I mean, Wild Things is set in Florida, so
the lead actress's name is Mitzi Capture. That's an incredible name. Oh, Mitzi Capture.
Rob Estes, right, is the guy.
Rob Estes, yeah. Okay.
I remember.
Fred Melman's in it.
Fred
Melman isn't. He does the narration.
Fred Melman, yeah. Oh, incredible.
He does the narration.
That's on Tubi now. Wow.
I think it's Tubi, or it was either Tubi or Pluto TV. It was somewhere where I was like, I saw that they had the show,
Tubi
and
or
every
not Tubi?
season. You know what?
No, it's
like,
catching.
Yeah, but that's. I went back and I was watching the pilot, and I was like, this is the perfect like. I think this joke has been told probably many times, but it's like back in the late 80s, early 90s for the USA Network, it was their slogan was not characters welcome, it was content welcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so it was like just bring us anything, and the more shows about cops on bikes, the better. And
isn't that a
as
good,
long as the
euphemism?
cops are sexy.
Exactly. Yes. And that's the American dream right there. That's why it's the USA Network. We are a melting pot of sexy detectives, sexy bike cops, lawyers. Is that
sexy
what Suits is about?
Hunters. Yes, lawyers.
Sexy burn noticers. All of those, which I assume is about firefighting.
I thought those were the bounty hunters.
Well, I think they're bounty hunters. Yeah, he's an ex-spy, I think. I saw one season of Burn Notice.
I didn't watch Burn Notice.
I liked Burn Notice.
Florida detective.
Sexy Florida. Yeah, it's Sexy Florida.
Yeah. It's just so much. It's like you watch that pilot of Silk Stockings and it's like so much like wailing saxophone and electric guitar. Everyone's got shoulder pads on. Like big hair. But it's just like it's just fun and it knows what it is. And I think it was probably dismissed at the time as being like, this is something that's a little more lurid than you would see on network television. And I know it had its fans, but I think it was always kind of dismissed as kind of like fluff, which is like fine. Not everything has to be deep, but it's like a very fun, I think the chemistry between the leads is really good. And I'm like, this kind of show, it makes me very nostalgic for being like, this is the little bit of titillation that I would get as a 10 or 11-year-old when I would just be like, all right, I'm going to watch this and then let it end and let Rhonda Shear come on and tell me what's on USA Up All Night tonight.
Oh my God.
This ran 176 episodes. Holy shit.
Sounds right. Yep, that sounds right. And it's probably what, only a few seasons. It's probably like
eight seasons. Yeah, 8 seasons. Yeah, 2 on CBS and then the remainder on USA. So
yeah, that sounds
wow. And I don't even think I realized it started on CBS. I feel like I probably caught it initially once it hit syndication like that on USA.
Oh, I would have only seen episodes in syndication the entire first run. I was not born yet.
Fair.
It's like,
must be nice.
Yeah. I feel like you're trying to talk to someone. And it's like, what shows do you watch? Well, I'm really into Silk Stockings and China Beach. Like, what channel are you watching?
It's okay. I watched the original Matlock, which was clearly not when I was
Matlock
I
ruled. Yeah, Matlock
it
was
did.
great.
I watched a lot of things that were like 70s, 80s
Mhm.
in the 90s and early 2000s because they would re-air on, I don't know, it was the channel for old people. Like it really was the
One
channel
of
for
those,
old.
TV
yeah.
Land.
Yes, TV Land. That's it.
I got real Rockford filed for a while. I was really in the
Oh, the
Rockford
Rockford
files.
Files
Okay,
is
that
fucking
tracks.
Yeah,
great.
they were pretty. I had a good time with that
And
one.
that's a David Chase. I mean, he didn't create it, but he was one of the writers.
Oh,
And it's
yeah,
like,
makes sense.
you can see there's actually like a bunch of actors that went on to have cameos in The Sopranos as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's
And
a big crossover there. And I think I think we're kind of at the point now where we've kind of run our course on this episode. But you mentioned, Amanda, you have 2 podcasts. So please,
I do.
pitch both of those to our listeners. Tell us what they're all about.
Yes. So I co-host 2 film podcasts. The first is called Don't Be Crazy. My co-host Zach and I, we just talk about movies. It's a very general one guy who doesn't work in film and me who works in film talking about what makes a movie work, what doesn't. We've kind of fallen into this thing where we just watch a lot of 90s movies because we enjoy them. There were a lot of mid-budget thrillers in the 90s, and we really love a mid-budget thriller.
oh yeah,
So and I guess it's just kind of like smooth brain for us that it's always fun to pop on a mid-budget 90s thriller or a 90s teen rom-com. So we've done a lot of those. And it's not any reason, just that we want to. And then I also co-host Pleasers and Punishers, and that we watch movies that are pleasing to watch, movies that ruin your today, tomorrow, and yesterday, and all things kinky and queer. And then we determine, is the movie a pleaser, a punisher, kinky, queer, or some facsimile of the few.
Love it. I love when a movie has a score sheet, or like when a podcast has a score sheet for something like that. We weren't clever enough to do that from the beginning. We were like,
should we say, is this episode a Puppet Master or is it a Castle Freak? Those are both good.
we have to define. Yeah, they're both good. It's like it's arbitrary where it goes in there.
We are really dorky on Pleasers and Punishers. There's a lot of history and lore that we dig into for movies, just because we are dorks.
Well, listen, you're going to be preaching to the choir to anyone who hears this. I mean, there's, I think I mean this in the kindest way possible. I think everyone listening to this show is a bit of a dork too. And if you like our brand of dorkiness, the best way to show us is to jump on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave us a 5-star rating, maybe a brief review if you feel so inclined to do so. You can email us at puppetmasterscastlefreaks@gmail.com if you have questions, comment, feedback, criticisms, anything like that. You can also leave comments on Spotify that we will see as well. If you want to keep up with what we're doing kind of week to week, the best way to do that is on Instagram. You can follow us at puppetmasters_castlefreaks, or you can follow me at _Giallo_Jared. I post a lot of show stuff on my personal as well. Steve has a lot of other stuff going on, including his stuff with Macabre Daily. So he'll tell you about that in a second, as well as his other podcast. So in addition to YouTube as a way to listen to this and updates on Blue Sky and other places, we're out there, and maybe we'll be more out there one day, but who knows? Because as I've already alluded to, Steve does a lot of other stuff these days. So Steve, anything you'd like to highlight for our listeners?
Absolutely. Yeah. Check out Cinemarcade. That's my podcast about movies, video games, and the sparks that fly when those worlds collide. That's our little tagline. That's a show where we are watching movies and then playing the video games based on those movies. So if you're listening to this week, then we just came out of an entire month of Shrek. We watched all 5 Shrek movies and played all of the games. I'm not a Shrek guy, so I don't know what it means to be a Shrek guy. I'm not really one of them. So we haven't started recording those yet. Maybe I had a good time with them. You'll find out. They're all out there.
There's more than one Shrek burlesque show.
I believe it. Okay. I had to really be judicious with my filters to get photos of Shrek for my social media. Because holy shit, people be hog wild with Shrek. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about that guy who inspires such
people
insane
find him Shreksy.
They find him.
And I was going to say, Amanda, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but I don't know why you didn't tell our listeners about your erotic Shrek fiction.
Yeah. Can you finally
Well, so
Oh my
Another-
God, did we actually get you on some?
but I do have an ogre horror movie that Macabre Daily covered.
Oh my God. But look at that perfect confluence right there. Because I also write occasionally for Macabre Daily, our good buddies over there doing amazing stuff. So definitely check all of that stuff out. And speaking of like a spotty score system, Cinema Arcade has a very irregular like scorecard where I don't think we have ever once used the same metric twice in a row. Like we shift back and forth between it like so rapidly. So it's all over the place. If somebody out there wants to chart that for me, I am too lazy. But thank you all for listening. Thank you, Amanda. You're a delightful guest, and thank you for going on so many wild tangents with us and following these primrose paths wherever they may take us. Be sure to tune in next week because we're jumping back in time a little bit. We're going back to 1977, back to the Charles Band production days for a movie I have not seen, but was a big early hit for Charles Band. It was called End of the World. End of the World. So, well, you know, maybe it's timely. Maybe it's another good confluence. Maybe it's another, you know, ogre sex video movie.
I'll give you a little something to look forward to get some 1970s Christopher Lee in that movie.
I do look forward to The End of the World and Christopher Lee. So both are going to be good. So thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see you next time.
And I want to just say again, thank you to Amanda Jane Stern for taking the time to come on. I knew you'd be a perfect fit for the show because I heard you on friend of the show, Scott Weinberg's Overhated podcast, talking about a movie that I love, Hellraiser Bloodline.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, Hellraiser.
It goes for broke. I love when a horror franchise sequel goes for broke.
Yeah.
And it gave us Fancy Boy Adam Scott, and that's all I ever wanted.
Yes.
All right. I have no way to really end from there. I kind of really threw off the entire rhythm to the end of that show. So I'll just say bye, everyone.